Welcome back. You're watching All Angles on ENCA. Now, the National Dialogue on Coalition Governments has concluded. The purpose of the event was to create the framework on coalitions. But from the get-go, smaller parties were unhappy. And that's after finding out that the bill on coalition governments had already been developed. And currently, only the ANC and the DA have agreed on the electoral threshold when forming coalition governments. And for more discussion, I'm joined by Professor Erwin Schwella from the School of Social Innovation at Hugenote Kollege. Prof, good afternoon to you. And thank you for joining us. I mean, who would have thought that South Africa would find themselves in this political landscape where it is about horse trading and, trying to put together the so-called Moon Pact, arrangement so that there is some form of a framework. What are your thoughts so far?
Let's give some context comments quickly, just to give some context to the whole conversation. First of all, yes, this is actually all good news in the sense of the broad principle. The more sort of, political aspects we can actually talk about in an analytical depth. But for current purposes, coalitions are good things, and they can and should work. And we must make them work. Now, first of all, when we hear that there's a conversation via the ANC on coalitions, then probably what they are saying, the scenario is that they may not be getting 50% or more majorities next year, which in some ways moves us away from the fairly strong government that we had. In the sense of large majorities, and that is good for cooperative governance in South Africa. And secondly, the point is that obviously that also sends a signal that, as we would expect from a democratic rule of law political party, they will accept the election results. So that's also good news. Now, given that, then the next step is, how do you deal with what we have seen to be a number of failures of coalitions, but please be reminded in local government context. Next year we have a national and provincial election, and we will have spheres of government in all of the provinces, which are spheres of government, and the national government, and there may be coalitions there. There probably will be coalitions there. So new plans have to be made, and therefore courageous conversations change conditions. So we must have these courageous conversations. Final contextual point for now is that we must also realize that there will be cynicism by other political parties, first of all, against when the national, very strong and fairly powerful party, the ANC, starts this conversation, even although it's the deputy president in his capacity as a deputy president. Because the ANC might be wanting to manipulate this in their favor, but the jury is out on that. And then secondly, if the other big parties then in some ways get together and they start thinking about the more technical matters, and it might then in some ways create a problem or a challenge for incumbency by the smaller parties. And that's the whole idea.
Yes, Prof, I just want us to break it down, because you've given us quite a lot to chew on. But what does it mean for the electorate? In other words, the voter who's going to cast their ballot next year for a party of their choice based on the manifesto and the policies of that particular party. In comes the coalitions, which then changes the entire complexion or the party's dynamics, as you would have mentioned, that if the ANC, for example, fails to get that 50+1 threshold, the whole thing could just become a whole mixture of smaller parties as well.
Well, we selected a democratic rule of law state, constitutional state, and we've got a constitution which provides for this. So that can happen, and maybe it's not such a bad thing that it happens.
My apologies, Prof. We've just got developing news, and we hope to have enough time to come back to you.